Hey, is that my cue? Hey, we used to say good morning. We don't say good morning anymore. It's good afternoon. Good afternoon, David Grun.
Good afternoon, Mark Hoffman.
How are you today?
It's now Mark and Dave over lunch. So
yeah, it kind of ruins the whole good morning. That's over.
It is over.
Hey, it's a Tuesday.
Yes.
And you're speaking this weekend, which means you're in like sermon prep mode. So we just interrupted that for this incredible show.
We did. Yep. So here, as we get set up, so we're going to talk a little bit about, let's start off by talking about going forward.
Are you hijacking the agenda?
Well, yeah, I am. I'm actually, we switched seats, and I'm going to see if I can hijack the agenda.
Well,
just
growing
like
up in our house,
I'm going to play Mark
when our
Hoffman.
one daughter would get real controlling, we'd just give her the C sign. So you seem very controlling. Like we're not going friendly. We're going to an agenda. So go ahead. I know you got something to say.
Well, just what people can expect. That we're going to do this show-ish kind of thing.
Is it a show?
Well, no, it's just Mark and Dave. They call them Mark and Dave. The podcast, YouTube, live, whatever.
Okay.
We're going to do it 2 times a month. Is that true? Did you sign up for 2 times a month?
You put it on my calendar. That's what we're doing.
2 times a month, and the goal will just be to share a little bit about what's going on in the life of Two Rivers Church, connect with people, share a little bit about us, a lot about the church, and that's the goal. So
the big thing we talked about this weekend, and we're going to talk about it next weekend and the weekends after that, is more than ever before. We really believe this is a time we are calling each other to, our staff to, and our church to, be connected to Jesus and be connected to each other.
Yes.
And so what's that going to look like for us in the weeks ahead?
Yeah, I think for us, we've been going through John's Gospel. And, like we always say, things are timely and God's smarter than we are, but it's really true.
Turns out.
It turns out. Make fun of me for that, too. No, I think, too, and there's some questions like people ask sometimes, like, hey, why do you take a book like John? Why don't you just call it John and just grind your way through it? I mean, for some people, they're like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And I think...
Well, we did grind. It was the grind.
We did do that. We did do that. But I think, as you're going along, the Bible's in themes, and themes emerge. And especially as you look at... when we started a year ago and we had no idea exactly where we would be right now, what would, just to say John. But as we look at this section where we're headed into, it really is all about being connected, and just really felt like God impressed it upon us as we talked about vision and where are we going as a church. And a lot of that, it just wouldn't be wise or smart to press into anything new or anything like that at this point, but reminding our church family who we are. And in the midst of that, probably no time is more important than now to make sure that we're connected to Jesus and each other. And that's what this whole section that we're going to be going through John over the next 2 months is all about. Through the rest of this year, reminding our church family, just like you did this weekend. We can't join Jesus in what he's doing in this world if we're not connected to Jesus and with other people who love Jesus. So,
and part of the reason, obviously, with us feeling it being even more significant for us in the weeks and months ahead are kind of where we are in our country. And one of the things we want to continue to do, and you're right, God is smarter than us, and knowing we'd get to this part in John and we'd be calling people to abide and to be connected. Pretty profound, important stuff for us. And so we've been talking with our staff, trying to figure out how do we really believe that God's calling us always to pray, but how do we pray more specifically in the weeks and months ahead? And so we're formulating some of the, you're like, Mark, you're going there already? Yeah, we're formulating some of the plan already to kind of call us as a church from probably mid-October to mid-November, because it's not just about an event that's taking place in the middle of all that. It's about us being connected to Jesus, which is connected to his mission, is the gospel, and staying connected to each other, no matter who's on, who's in the White House, who's not in the White House, who's where, what, how. We have a higher calling on our life. We're citizens of this world for sure, but we're also citizens of the kingdom of God, and so we want to continue to call people there.
Not even also, kingdom, like our citizenship. Just a hard, we already, we could go way deep into this, but our citizenship is in heaven, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is just true, and that doesn't equal my citizenship in any country in this world. And I think, we were on that webcast a couple weeks ago, and it was just a really good reminder. Like sometimes people might be like, hey, why aren't you talking? These are current issues, and why aren't you talking about what's going on with all these current issues that are there? And both sides of the political equation have so hijacked the issues that you even have to be careful about what you say, because if I say it, then people are going to put me in one political camp or another political camp. And that's just not the gospel, right? It's just not the gospel. And so what we're going to be focused on over the next section is, what's it look like for us to be so connected to Jesus and so connected to people that the gospel is what we care about more than anything. And we really feel like that's what God's called us to as a church.
So I got an email in the midst of all this from a loving member of our congregation who said, are we going to become a seeker church? I mean, all we're hearing about right now is the gospel, the gospel, the gospel, the gospel. Like, do you want? Well, how would you have responded? Because I did respond.
Yeah. How did you respond?
Well, no, I was asking you. I'll make sure if my response was.
Yeah. Well, first off, if you're walking through a book of the Bible and it's all the book is about,
it's the gospel.
You talk about something else. But for me, it's like, what else would we talk about? And especially during this season. And I think people sometimes get confused on the concept of spiritual depth. Like, well, that's the starting point, but isn't there more? I don't think there is. And I think a lot of people confuse depth with information. And the more information I might have, but depth, in the way I view it, is what's it look like for me to actually be able to live out the gospel, to partner with God in His mission in this world, in whatever. Like, it's not. We talked the other day a little bit about, it doesn't look just like one thing. It's not like, oh, we all have to become street evangelists, or we all have to, carry tracts with us to the grocery store and lead people in the checkout line to Christ. And that'd be a lot easier than it would be right now, because people don't even want you to talk to them. But that's not what it looks like. But what's it look like for us to be engaged in Jesus' mission in this world in our own unique kind of way? So,
and my response was probably not as eloquent as that was, but my response was, absolutely, it's about the gospel every day. In fact, and I loved how you said it a minute ago. It's not just the one thing. It's the one thing I've been trying to live out my whole life, and it's this thing that, as I get up in the morning, I want to live for Jesus. I mean, I want to live out the gospel in my life, and that doesn't just mean praying a prayer and receiving Christ. It means praying a prayer, receiving Christ, and walking and following. That's why I love this part about this section of John we're in. He's calling us. He's calling his followers. He's calling his disciples. Walk as I've walked. I mean, follow the journey, follow the path, and that's obedience today, tomorrow, and the next day. And that's the battle I find myself in every day. I wish when I accepted Christ in the late '60s, that it all came together, and I lived the victorious Christian life.
Yeah.
I'm living the victorious Christian life. But it's the battle and the struggle every day, and that is the gospel.
Right, and
with no apologies.
We've been talking about it as a leadership team. One of the things we're engaged in is clarifying Two Rivers values. We've used that as a term, but you won't go to our website and find Two Rivers values yet. We're working on that. Yeah. And one of the things we're talking about is the gospel, and the gospel is that God just doesn't save us; it's also He transforms us. And people fall down on that. It's just being born anew, born from above, born again. Like, that's the gospel, and not the life afterwards. And it's both. And then, yeah, like we already said, join in His mission in this world. Hey, so speaking of 60.
Oh, don't go there.
Wow.
1960.
This is me pulling a Mark Hoffman. You got a big birthday coming up this month.
I'm going to be 45.
All over again.
All over again for the 15th time in a row.
You do have a couple big events this month.
Yes, big events. Actually, over the next 10 days, turning 60.
Yep.
Big time, yeah. And I'm going to go run 60 miles that day. I don't think I could walk 60 miles. And our daughter's getting married a few days after that, which is pretty exciting and fun. That'll be really fun.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. You just got to ride the wave to get there.
The wave. Hey, turning the corners from my personal life to the church.
Okay.
Logistically, like what there's a lot going on around here. And as we've said all throughout the last several months, what are we, 7 months into this reality, or this new reality? We're working a plan, and we're figuring the plan out on the fly.
Yes.
So we're not like randomly trying to throw things at a wall, and at the same time we're trying to see what's sticking so we can move forward, right?
Yes.
But it makes us rethink everything. Like a week or so from now, we have a meeting talking about Christmas. Like, we don't have the power to cancel Christmas.
What does that
So
look
it
like?
felt like somebody tried to do that to Easter. But anyway, Christmas is going to look
did.
different, I would assume, this
We
year.
did.
So we're
Yeah,
trying
we
to
don't
figure
know.
that out. What does Christmas look like? What is, for us in ministry circles, it depending where it falls on a weekend, I think it falls on a Friday, so that means Christmas Eve's a Thursday. So there's a Christmas Eve, typically like 1,000 different services at our church. I don't know what that's going to look like this year. We're talking about it. And then there's
Yeah.
Friday's Christmas, and then Saturday and Sunday is services. And so we're trying to figure that stuff out. We're trying to figure out, hey, how do we move back into easing folks in, appropriately so, back into children's ministries? And
Right.
I'm really proud of all of our team, children's ministries team, both of our campuses in Roane County and here at the Harrison Lane campus. They've figured out a family event and a family worship experience where moms and dads are walking their kids through in a safe environment. And that's great. And I don't want anybody to hear that what I'm saying is, hey, everybody needs to be a part of that. When it's time and it's ready for your family, and whenever that time comes, you got to make those calls for your family. But we're trying to work in that odd middle place.
Yeah, the
like how-
in-between.
and we're seeing numbers of people come back to campuses, and so we're actually looking at. So far, we've accommodated, I think, fairly well on
Yes.
all of our campuses and our venues. We have all of our chairs spread out and the social distancing piece. And yet, as our numbers increase, we're going to look at even that more creatively and what that will
Right.
look like. And so we've been experimenting in the past. This is probably going to jack up people's schedules because it's going to get
Yes.
confusing. But I'm going to go there anyway.
Yes.
We moved to, on our Harrison Lane campus, having Blend and AMP meet at a 10 o'clock hour so we could stagger people on and off campus.
Yes.
And now those hours are starting to actually get, especially in our live venue, starting to fill up a little bit more. So we're going to move, I think, in a couple weeks, the weekend of the 26th and 7th, which would be that Sunday, which is the 27th.
Yes.
We're going to move back into a 9:30, 11 o'clock
Yep.
deal on the Harrison Lane campus. The Blend right now is scheduled to meet at 9:30 hour,
9:30.
and AMP will meet at 11 o'clock.
Yes.
And I know it's going to get confusing, and so we're just going to ask people, would you continue to check the website, go online? We'll send
Right.
out reminders, but in this era, we're just going to continue to punt and do the best job we can to provide. And we're taking it in, 2-month chunks as best we can. Looking
Right.
at like, hey, what does it look like for October, November? Doesn't mean we might come back in the middle of October and go, we're moving into a different deal, but
Yeah.
we're trying to do all we can
Doing
to
all we-
accommodate where people are in their ease and comfort level about being back on campuses.
I was talking to somebody a week ago, and he was saying that he's been part of the prayer ministry, so he'd been back on campus. His wife hadn't been back on campus, and just trying to be like, what's it like? And so people may be out there wondering, what's it like? We had one of our elders. He came back and was like, wow, this isn't bad, right? Even if I had a mask on as I came into the building, and the chairs are more spaced out. But the reality is, in our current scenario, is our live venue here at Harrison Lane holds 200 max, and we're really discovering that. So we need to make sure that we have opportunities for people to worship in other spaces, and also just encouraging people as we approach that 200 number, maybe here on Harrison Lane at our 9:30 and 11 o'clock hour, that people would be also flexible with us, as it may look like there's...
Then go down to AMP and rock out.
Yeah, there's space. It looks like there's space in the room, but
Yeah.
there's no longer space in the room, and we have about just a little ways until we hit that. And so that's been encouraging to watch, kind of like the return kind of build a little bit. It's been really encouraging to watch our online remain really consistent, and so trying to
I know all
encourage our
the
church
ministries
through
are
all of
working
this.
hard to accommodate as best they can. Worship ministries working hard on some new sets and some stuff to be able to put online, as well as children's ministries just continue to figure out how do they best accommodate, even in this middle ground. Maybe there's even further we can go in some of the middle ground, so to be able to meet the needs of folks. So it's exciting, and
is.
it's fun to see people do the best they can, put their creative hats on, and go after it. Right?
Yeah, I think especially as you said with the kids ministry, it's the in between, and so the big problem is we don't have enough volunteers, and so what's it look like for us to go, wow, we've never thought that we could just invite families in and have a worship experience. But now the next phase is what our worship time's going to be here, what's it look like for us to stand up kids ministry, and the realities of our different campuses. The upside is they can kind of uniquely tailor what they're doing. And so they're going to each be talking about what's it look like maybe to stand up kids ministry on their campus. What's it look like out in Roane County for us to stand up kids ministry, or Harrison Lane, or down in Bearden, which they'll be launching sometime.
Hey, I want to capitalize on a moment, even if there's only 6 people watching. I don't know how many people are watching, but we mentioned this over the weekend, and I just was incredibly encouraged by our staff who said, hey, we typically do Love Gives in the fall.
Yes.
Around, Thanksgiving. I think we moved it back from Thanksgiving to October Thanksgiving time. And man, the need of some of our Latin American partners is so great. Could we do it sooner? I was like, oh, absolutely. I'm glad somebody thought of that, right? And so we went sooner, and so Love gave in August, and Love gave $45,000, which is pretty amazing for 7 partners that we're working with in Latin America, which is just so exciting. And the fact that money will be arriving and they don't even know it's coming or expecting it is just an amazing and wonderful opportunity for us to continue to be kingdom-minded, not just about what's happening here, but what's happening in the world. And so incredibly exciting to be a part of that, on top of. And I think this is important for people to hear. I get this question a lot, like, any pull you aside, how's the church really doing financially? Like, well, thank you for your continued commitment to the church and giving. We're down about 7% in our giving, and we're down even further than that in our spending. And so we're trying to work and respond appropriately. But we're incredibly grateful, and we have enough friends around the country at different churches who would have a different story to tell. And so incredibly grateful and so thankful to God and to you, God's people, to be able to continue to support the work of the ministry here. So that's exciting. And on top of that, to give $45,000 in August, which is the end of a vacation moving into fall time, not the best time to market something, and yet just, I don't know, I get chills to think about that God.
It was also scary. I mean,
how so? What do you mean?
Well, it's scary to as a leader in the church when you're down
faith.
you're down 7%, and you're like, but November's really late in the lives of a couple of these ministries. It's not all equal, all across all 7 of them. But some of them are in really dire circumstances, and they're in the midst of dire circumstances, trying to help people in the midst of dire circumstances. And it would be just really late to go, okay, yeah, we'll help you in a couple months. And so shout out to Walker Lee. You don't even know this, I don't think. Walker Lee is really, he reached out to the church and said, hey, can we possibly help? He'd been on a trip down to Guatemala with one of our partners there, and can we help them out? And on the backside of that, I was like, well, what if we were to help all of them out? And this one we started talking about. What if we
Walker?
Yeah, Walker Lee. Special shout out. But that was kind of the genesis of the idea, and then from there we were like, okay, if we helped them all, as well as somebody we've done prayer ministry reaching out to us in Chile, being like, hey, we're doing this, and we'd heard a couple things about what was going on. So it's going to be awesome. We did start telling them that to expect the money, because we're figuring out how that's all going to go, and we want them to be looking for it. So they are going to be receiving their money in the next week, which is exciting.
Cool. Hey, can I get off the script stuff?
Yeah.
So there's a reputation around here that you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah. We don't.
I've been waiting for this. Well, here it comes.
I just thought of this. I didn't come in with this in my back pocket, but I thought, yeah, this is something I've heard people say. Like, Mark, you always lay your cards out on the table, probably too much so. Like, people ask me a question, I tell them like a whole story to get there, and like then they're not even sure I've even answered the question. Give them so much information.
Okay.
But then they would say, and then there's Dave Gruen, who holds his cards close to the vest. Like, what is he thinking? What is he feeling? Like. So here's your chance, if you want to. You don't have to do this, but you can redeem that.
Yes.
If in fact that's not true, what is a card close to your vest right now that you've been holding back? Do you think this is the space to actually put it out there?
Well,
what do we need to know about you?
So, okay, I do feel.
I'm asking you specific.
Yeah, but I do feel like that is, it's a little bit, in a one-on-one conversation. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to be like, do I know you? Do you really care about my stuff? Do you whatever? Yeah. But I pretty much lay all my cards out there. I mean, like, I pretty
Oh
much
my gosh,
throw.
they're letting up. Absolutely not. No. That's not.
Are you kidding me? Like,
Are you self-aware?
I just like, well, not once again, not on the one-on-one, but when I'm communicating on a weekend, like that's
But that's
all
the
you-
500 people. I get that.
Yeah, but
So
like,
you're-
I'll
so
lay
what I hear,
my
you're
soul
more comfortable-
bare.
you're more
I'll lay my
comfortable.
soul bare to the internet and 500 people. That's easier for
Yes.
me than one.
That's right.
Yes.
It's okay, Nathan. There's your answer.
Yeah, hey, and Nate, if it always appears like you're working an angle, I'm not sharing, man.
Oh,
I'm not sharing.
wow. Okay, we better
that's
move
me,
on.
right? That's how.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also just it's like a wiring thing. I think there's certain people like you go like I do one-on-one in relationship, and I when I build trust, then I.
So I'll go back.
my
Is there
heart.
anything? Is there a card close to your vest that you'd like to share with us? What's going on right now that we'd like to know about? You think
Oh, wow.
possibly we might be interested in?
Well, okay. So
And you.
here's something. Here's what's going on inside of me is I talked about how awesome it's been to preach through the book of John, but it's hard.
It's the same story.
It's the same thing.
He's saying the same thing. Like, okay.
Yeah, and so we have resources out there, and you read guys and reading D.A. Carson, and he's like, you better take this book
Look
in
at you
big
name
chunks.
dropping. That's good.
Well,
Yeah, you're well read.
yeah. Nobody knows who that is. Nobody's even gonna know who it is. I'm sorry.
I do.
And I just reading in his commentary, he's like, okay, if you're gonna preach the whole book of John, you better take it in big chunks because it's gonna get repetitive. So right now, today, in the midst of where I am, I'm like, I don't know.
So why, if
For
you
Tuesday-
were told to break it down into big chunks, why did you give small chunks? I got 14 verses last week. What do you have this week? How many verses?
A bunch.
Oh, do you?
I go through 14 through the end of 15. We're going big chunks.
Oh,
I
big
mean,
chunks. Okay. good.
We're this is what's weird is like it seems like it's taking forever, but when you look at, I mean, you could go verse by verse through this book. It's not an exaggeration to be like 3-4 years. I mean, churches have done that, but
I'm privately wishing we were.
yeah,
Because there's things you move past, like last week, like there's things I moved past. Like I had such a great day of studying this whole part of John chapter 14 in the first few verses. And I was like, well, that didn't even hit the message that weekend. So
Yeah.
there is stuff that you leave on the,
there's lots of stuff that you have to leave behind, but this is the other side of that. This is the really cool thing. So this whole section, man, you talk about like sections of the Bible where it's like, okay, I've been in 13, 14, 15, 16. I teach it around the world, whatever. Feel like you know it. But it is cool to kind of like see a pattern that you haven't really noticed before. This pattern that's there, and this idea of I'll also like abiding. That's always just been this. I just don't get it. I don't understand what that means. I don't understand because I don't
feels
get
like
the
you're just
word.
riding along, like you're abiding. Like you're just
Yeah.
floating along.
Yeah, well, you just
Well,
and so people use that
Brunism
word.
turns out it's a little more intense than that.
It is, but people use that word, and so it's like I don't know what that means. What's it mean to abide? I don't know, and so I have
Oh,
to.
you do too.
Well, I do but not like in practice. I mean, I know, but I did have to go look it up in English. What does the word actually mean? And to go like, I don't know how to just do that. And then some people I know like, oh, it's just, that's just you and Jesus, which I get quiet time and I get all that. I understand that. But it's more than that. And so that's what like has been really cool and hard. And here we are Tuesday at almost 1:30. I don't have an outline yet. I don't know what's
You
going
have
on.
a meeting at 3:30.
Yeah, it's a meeting in 2 hours. I don't have an outline, and I don't know. Just because I felt like I was just spinning myself in circles earlier in my life in a personal kind of way. Is that what you're asking?
I
too?
was, yeah. But you diverted like you typically do. So I was gonna let you roll because I didn't think you wanted to answer.
No, like this is the thing. Like in my life right now, personally, we're. This is what's weird. We're we all like we're like back when we were doing this back in the spring. It was like, well, in 2 weeks we'll know. In 2 weeks we'll know.
Yeah, I
in
thought
2
we just
weeks we'll
tied.
know,
This is
in
gonna
2
tide
weeks
us
we'll
over.
know. 2 weeks we'll know. In 2 weeks I'll know everything. Well, I think that's kind of in my family. Like My wife is back at school. My daughter's back at school. My other daughter's back in college. But I think, like, in some way, like being at the grocery store the other night, and I was looking around, everybody with their mask on or whatever. It's like, this is kind of like just getting to be normal. It's not, at first it was like a thing and whatever, but now it's like, okay, well, I can do that. It's no big deal. And so in my family, like, is it bad just to say we're just like cruising along? I mean,
It's not bad. No
in my
judgment.
family.
Ain't no judgment.
And then for me, on a very personal level, yeah, I'm in the struggle of how do you make something new and fresh and in the midst of, and yet I'm really excited about some of the stuff we're doing when it comes to the values and that kind of stuff. And then I'm trying to stay fit and working on that side of my world too.
You're doing well, man.
Yeah.
Hey, the one thing about the sermon stuff that I really have enjoyed, are we talking too long?
No, we have like a couple more minutes.
Okay. I think it's refreshing to be a part of a teaching team who's discovering as we go. I'm refreshed when I hear you and the other guys on the team talking about, hey, I'm discovering this, I'm learning this. Like, yeah, you do know what it means to abide. It's not like a new concept, like the first time you read John. And yet, at this point in life, this is what I love about the scriptures, right? I mean, at this point in your life, our life, the life of our church, what does it mean for us now? What does it mean for us here? And that's where the Holy Spirit takes a passage to a whole new place or to a greater space than you would have ever thought or imagined. And I also love, and we refer to this time a lot. I've picked this up in our teaching times. Hey, at our teaching team meeting this week, like, you know, I had a pretty solid outline last week. I didn't want anybody to mess with it. I have a full week. I got to get this thing done. This thing's to bed. And I think Bart unpacked it a little bit. He added a whole nother point, which was missing.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that there's this conversational reality to our discovery that I hope and pray that translates. It keeps this fresh, and it keeps us learning and growing as a community fresh, which
Right.
is kind of fun. So.
Yeah. That actually it's my favorite, as weird as it sounds. Not when I'm speaking that weekend. That's not my favorite thing. But when other people are speaking, that 3:30 on Tuesday.
It's a fun meeting.
It is a fun meeting. It's crazy.
Most meetings are not fun, but that's a fun meeting.
Fun. It is fun, and so the people may be wondering, what are you even talking about? So we have our worship team there, our production person there. We have our groups person there, and then we have all of our teaching team there in a room. That's a lot of people, and you just it's kind of morphed over time into just kind of talking, hey, this is what I'm thinking, big ideas, and this is what I'm thinking outline-wise, and this is kind of where I'm going. And then people shoot it all down, or not really, and they shape it. And so part of the process, it's morphed really over the process of the last year, where even for me, it's become something that I like it. I'll put it this way. I like the meeting more when I'm not at zero outline at 2 hours away.
Yeah.
But it is a fun meeting.
Yeah, but by 4:30 today, you'll have a greater clarity having had a conversation.
Yeah.
So it'll be good.
Yeah. So that's kind of how our process works. That happens, and that's why we always talk about, hey, in sermon meeting this week. So anyway, any parting shots that we need to know?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna bookend it.
Okay.
It's critical. It's critical that we stay connected. I hate where we are, and I hate where we're going. Actually, I hate where the next several weeks and months are going to be for us as a nation. It just is what it is. And I've been praying as we've been praying. Our leaders have been praying that God would continue just to unify us. That the things that we agree on, Jesus, the one we agree on, would be the one that owns us and owns us through this process. And so that's our heart's desire. It's not a cop-out. I had another friend of mine who said, hey, you're just hiding behind the gospel. Well, okay.
Guilty. I'll do it.
I'll hide behind the gospel any day of the week. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that Jesus is going to be Jesus. He's on the throne the 15th of October and the 15th of November. Ain't nothing going to change that.
Right.
So,
And I think it is fair to say, like, just because we may approach something a certain way, or we may have a conviction about something, and a conviction of being apolitical when it comes to, wait, I don't want to come down on one side or the other, so people don't hear the gospel, right?
Right.
And so, but that doesn't mean that that's my expectation for every church leader or every
Right.
person out there. But I know that and it was really good over the past couple weeks to be reminded of, for 15 years, I've known, like, I don't I don't want to talk politics. I don't believe that's the role.
That's
I think
the
the role
message,
is
yeah.
to teach the Bible, to have people then apply biblical principles into their lives. It will have implications. It absolutely will have implications. And then I know people get into, hey, in history it was the church and they transformed and whatever. I just know that's not what I'm called to. So
Cool. Hey, we're going to say goodbye, but before we do, we promised you this. This is how we started this whole thing on the fly 7 months ago. Hey, we'll give you as much of the update information that we possibly have, and we've
Yep.
been seeking to do that. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. Have a great week. See you soon.
see ya.